better than I thought. So the first big explanation, which we hear a lot as to why there are less big AAA games coming out these days, is because A, games take longer to make, and B, people have been conditioned to expect a lot more from games now in 2023 than they did back in 2014. Like, they were still figuring out the whole way to make big open world experiences, and now we're getting games that have insane motion capture that looks like real life. We're getting games that have massive open worlds and 50-hour stories. Mechanics that have been before, and people are even starting to say now that everything is kind of blending together. So there's an increased pressure on developers to make their games as unique as possible, and obviously all of that makes things take a lot longer. Additionally, this huge thing happened in 2020 that kind of disrupted the way games are made, and that's kind of why we've seen such a huge gap. Whereas now, in 2023, the output is absolutely insane. Like 2023, because of how long it takes to make games and how the whole development process of a lot of these games was disrupted, is definitely going to go down as one of the best years in history for games. Like, honestly, this year alone is on par, I would say, with something like 2007, where we got stuff like BioShock and a billion other amazing games in the same year. I mean, this year alone, we've gotten Dead Space, we've gotten Jedi Survivor, we've gotten Resident Evil 4 Remake, Street Fighter 6 is going out across the board. Diablo is being called the best Diablo game ever and is getting really good reviews as well. And there is stuff coming out later in the year, like Spider-Man 2 and Final Fantasy 16 that we're looking forward to. We might even hear about some new huge games during Summer Game Fest and the Xbox Showcase that'll be third-party and come out on both consoles that may come out this year as well. So yeah, 2023 is kind of picking up the slack that was definitely felt in 2020, like fall 2020 when the PS5 came out, 2021 and 2022. Like, comparing the list of games that have already come out in 2023 from the first party, it's pretty comparable to what we saw in 2022, which is awesome. Another really interesting thing I noticed as someone who's been playing PlayStation games since
Revelio
60, and then I saved up a bunch of money, and by the time I got the PS3, there were already a ton of games out. I got it the year Uncharted 2 came out, so the games I got when I bought the thing were Infamous 1, Little Big Planet 1, Uncharted 1, and then I got Resistance 2, and I got Uncharted 2 for Christmas that year as well. So I got a ton of great games, and I've been playing PlayStation games lot more games coming out back on the PS4 is because of a practice Sony still does. This is the first reason. There are many reasons. The first one is that Sony used to release a big AAA game, and then a couple months to a year later, they would release a whole new game for a cheaper price that was a standalone experience for sure, but it was built in the original game's map. The example I see is Infamous Second Son. Very soon after that came out, we got Infamous First Light, which was a standalone experience featuring, I think her name was Fetch. That game was awesome. I think I liked the story in First Light more than I liked it in Infamous Second Son, but that's beside the point. We also saw them do this in 2016 and 2017 with Uncharted 4 and then The Lost Legacy. That was a Naughty Dog move where The Lost Legacy was actually just supposed to be DLC, and then it ballooned up into its own game, and then finally with the PS5's launch, we saw this again with Spider-Man Remastered and Spider-Man Miles Morales, or Spider-Man 2018 Miles Morales. Like, Miles Morales was the smaller game, built in the same map as the first game, but it was a standalone experience. Developers so much as they were like an overseer who kind of provided. I told you so they realized how Andy Rush can and Sony has two the issue is they're kind of having the same problem Xbox had, where like you're buying these studios and then you're letting them start up new games, and those games take long to produce. And it's kind of all created this perfect storm where these studios that Sony's buying are working on new games, and the studios that they've had for a long time are also working on new games. Naughty Dog is working on allegedly The Last of Us Part 3. That multiplayer game doesn't look like it's going to materialize, which really sucks, but what can you do? Ghost of Tsushima 2 is assuredly being worked on over at Sucker Punch. Insomniac has been great about releasing games at a pretty fast clip, but if you look at the games they're releasing, it makes sense as to why. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is like a direct sequel to what they already made back in 2016. It's just a little bit bigger. Spider-Man 2 looks like an expanded version of what we saw in Spider-Man and Miles Morales. They're just being smarter about their releases, whereas the other studios are building huge experiences like the one I just mentioned, Ghost of Tsushima 2. They got to make a whole new game basically from the ground up, and that takes a long time. So yeah, when it comes to games, if you take the first few years of the PlayStation 4 and compare it to the first few years of the PlayStation 5, on the surface, it kind of looks like there were more games coming out back then, especially if you do raw number to raw number. There definitely were, but I'd argue that the quality of games has massively increased in what Sony has produced, A, and B, they've done a really good job keeping that same strategy going, where they release games and then they release a standalone experience in the same map, or they make sure that studios can work on multiple games at the same time, or they buy new studios and get them working on games, or they get indie games like Humanity, the one they just released on PS Plus. I think they're not doing a bad job at all releasing games. It's just games are more expensive to make, games take longer to make, and everyone's expecting a standard to be met now, especially with frame rate, which makes things even harder. So yeah, it looks like it's pretty crazy on paper when you directly compare the game output of both consoles, but I'd say the PS5 is doing a pretty dang good job, especially with the releases that we've seen in 2023. And I'm counting third party there because most of these games play better on the PlayStation 5. Even the middling games like the Callisto Protocol really did feel like a PlayStation 5 exclusive. And as far as the hardware goes, it's a night and day experience. I will tell you that back in the day when the PlayStation 4 came out, there was a pretty long period in which there were PS3 games still coming out, and we didn't have this great backwards compatibility that made games run better like they do from the PS4 to the PS5. So I had my PS3 plugged in for at least a year or two after the PS4 came out, because there was a huge drought of games, not just first-party games, but third-party games as well on the PlayStation 4, so I really had no choice. Games like the Metal Gear Solid HD collection, I played on my PS3 after the PS4 came out. I also got Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, which was not on PS4, and I still don't think it's on PS5, but thankfully, with the Master Collection, they're doing volumes, and hopefully they eventually get to Revengeance, because it's one of the best games ever. I absolutely love it. But another area where I think the PS5 is winning as well is just hardware quality. The PS4, when it came out, really felt underpowered, and the reason for that is that the generation where we had the 360 and the PS3 was extended. There was a recession in the middle of that generation, which that's obviously, but that caused people to not really want to spend money on video games or new consoles. So Sony and Microsoft, and I guess to some extent Nintendo, looked at the situation and said, well, can we push just a couple more years out of these consoles and then release this PS4 and Xbox One that we've been working on for a couple of years now and actually ready to go just a few years down the line? And that's exactly what they did. So when the PS4 and Xbox One came out, both of those machines were underpowered, and they definitely kind of felt underpowered, exemplified by the fact that I was able to just keep gaming on my PS3 for quite a long time after I got the PlayStation 4, and I genuinely didn't care. I mean, one of the best launch titles for sure for the PS4 was Killzone Shadowfall, and it did a lot of visual trickery to make make it feel next gen, but I think that game probably Killzone 2 came out so many years prior to that and looked amazing for the time, and it was not that far off gameplay-wise from what we saw in Shadowfall on the PS4. Additionally, the PS4 really slowed down a lot after its first couple of years on the market. I think people kind of expected that, but they didn't expect it to slow down as much as it did. You could attribute that to the hardware being a little bit outdated by the time it came out. You could also attribute that to it using HDD instead of an SSD, and finally you could attribute that to its terrible network connectivity that everyone hated at the time because the PlayStation Store keyboard where you had to go down like a sliding scale for every letter and all the everything in my power to show you everything except the game. You get DLC, you get avatars, you get themes, you get everything except the game you were looking for, so you had to type out the entire name. And yeah, because of all of that stuff combining, the PS4 felt sluggish and it felt unoptimized and it felt kind of unfinished for a little bit. Whereas the PS5, that operating system is awesome. It was awesome at launch and it's only gotten better. My PS5 is just as fast now as it was when I got it. I never have to wait for the store to load because it's actually built into the console's operating system. I never have to wait very long for games to download. Sony finally figured out how to make downloads go faster on the PSN, and unlike in the PS4 generation, I can actually change my PlayStation Network name. And sticking with hardware real quick, I think one area though where the PS4 definitely beats the PS5 is with how it looks, specifically the launch edition of that console. I always thought that trapezoid shape that they launched with was really cool. I like the two-tone look, even though the black plastic scratched up super easily on the original PS4. And yeah, the design of it I think was overall a little bit nicer to look at, but PS5 stays a lot cooler and just overall feels like it works a lot more efficiently than the PlayStation 4. And unlike that console, this thing does not break a sweat running games at 1080p, and most of them will run at 60 FPS if you're playing at that lower resolution. So from a hardware standpoint, I really have no complaints with the PlayStation 5 other than it's a little too big for my TV cabinet, but that's not a huge complaint at all. It's just something I noticed. So if you compare the hardware, I'd say, well, yes, the launch models, the PS4 looked a little bit better. If you look at the PS4 Pro and compare it to the launch PS5, I think the PS5 looks better. If you look at the PS4 Slim and compare it to the PS5 that we have now, I think the PS5 looks better than that. And overall, the PS5 just runs better across the board. So I love this console. And then finally, Sony's always been pretty good with accessories, but one thing that they've definitely gotten better at with the boss and the PS Vita and all this other stuff that they're concentrating on is making the PS5 the center of their ecosystem. Right? Like you had the Vita, and the PS4, and they kind of work together, like they could talk to each other, and you could buy some PS3 games and get a free game with it, but at the end of the day, they felt like completely separate experiences, whereas now, you have the PlayStation 5 at the center of it all, and then you branch out from there. So you get your PS5, if you want VR, you buy the PSVR 2, you need a PS5, it's a single cable solution because most of the stuff is running off of your super powerful console. That's awesome. You want to get a handheld now in the PlayStation ecosystem, you're going to be able to do that. It's just going to be able to play games directly from your PlayStation 5. So Sony basically created the Wii U, which, you know, I'm not super into the idea of streaming games from my PlayStation 5, but that's really because I have so many other ways to do it. If I was younger, I was a kid in middle school, a kid in high school, I had to beg my parents to buy me a PlayStation 5, it would be much, much harder to convince them to get me a full extra handheld than it would be to convince them to give me a supplementary handheld that works with the PlayStation they already bought me, and most importantly, is much cheaper, right? We don't know what the Project Q is going to cost, to be fair, but I think Sony understands that they have to keep the price low, or they would have made a more expensive handheld that can actually natively run games. And then just general accessories for the PlayStation 5. People really enjoyed the Pulse Wireless 3D headset. They've given us a Pro Controller with the DualSense Edge. They have an upscale headset with their in-zone branding where you can get the H7. I have no complaints at all about that headset. I use it on my PC and my PS5, and it's one of my favorite headsets of all time. Sony even has monitors that match up with the PS5 now with that in-zone line. I have the M9 sitting right here, and this, just like their headset, is one of the best monitors I've ever used. So from an accessory standpoint, I think yes, Sony has finally figured out how to make the PS5 their center focus and then build out from there instead of splitting themselves kind of thin, making Vita games, making PSVR games, making PS5 games. Now they're making PS5 games. You just need different hardware to play them with the PSVR 2, and I think that's really cool. So yeah, there is console war stuff going on all the time. I understand that's how people build clout and more power to them. It's just when you see things laid out in a grid, it is kind of crazy to see how many more games that look like PlayStation 4. But when you really dig into it and look at the history of those consoles, I think Sony, while they might not be doing a better job at releasing games in a timely manner with the PlayStation 5, I think they're doing a really good job just on their own with all of the context and everything going on around them. So yeah, at the end of the day, I think the PS5 is a great console and it's definitely a massive upgrade over the PS4. Huge shout out to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. If you've ever wanted to create your own website but you didn't know where to start, that's where Squarespace comes in. With their fluid engine system, they not only make it easy to create your own website, but what you do, they make sure it'll work across your desktop, your mobile phone, or really any device you access that website on. And if you've ever wanted to create an online store, it's also super easy with Squarespace. Whether you sell digital, physical, or service products, Squarespace has all of the tools you need to get started. And once you have that store set up, you can accept payment from multiple different sources because of their flexible payment system. So you can use PayPal, credit cards, Apple Pay. You can even use Afterpay. If that sounds cool to you, and I'm sure it does, head to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch your website, go to squarespace.com/psready for 10% off your first purchase of a domain or website. Again, huge shout out to Squarespace for sponsoring this video.
Incendio.
Doesn't that cloud look like a giraffe?
Yeah. That one looks like a weird bird.
A puffin. Like our insurance mascot.
Speaking of the policy, any update on our insurance?
No, not yet.
With no insurance company, you get a mascot. With NJM, you get a top-rated claim experience and a dedicated rep as a priority, and you...
Look at Tower Bank up there.
No, with the latter. The vehicles are mascots, just great insurance. NJM.
Incendio.
I'll be the judge of that.
Oh! Searchable, verified reviews.
That's better than the ham, and I've never said that.
Booking.com, booking.
Yeah.
David Yost, who played Billy Cranston in the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and reprised his role in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always, just released the script for episode 3 of his Quantum Continuum. So we left off the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Quantum Continuum. Tommy Oliver has to become the Yellow Ranger. They finally get back their Dinozords, with the Rangers facing a pretty big problem. And that problem is Beatdown. Right from the start, Beatdown is strangling the Megazord with one hand, holding it up off the ground. The Rangers are powerless as Beatdown reaches up with his other hand and with one swift motion rips the head of the Megazord off. The body to the Megazord falls listlessly to the ground. The Rangers' family and Vulcan Skull watch in horror as Beatdown holds the head of the Megazord in one hand and stares directly into the cockpit at the Rangers. Before anybody could do anything, Beatdown, with one final look at the Rangers as they panic in the cockpit, throws the head of the Megazord with a menacing laugh. The Megazord head flies through the air and explodes in a fiery crash off in the distance. Everyone in the command center sees the explosion on the viewing globe. Shock, horror, and dismay run across their faces as the Rangers' family and Vulcan Skull all wonder, did the Power Rangers get out alive? Moments later, Kimberly lays face down in the dirt. She slowly lifts her head up in pain. Looking around, she couldn't find Tommy, Zach, or Jason, but she stumbles upon an unconscious Billy. She manages to wake up Billy, and they both wonder where the rest of the team is. In a different area, we see Tommy waking up and finding an unconscious Jason. Billy and Kimberly make their way through the battlefield to try to find the other Rangers. They have an interesting conversation. Kimberly feels that this is the time that she needs to tell Tommy this secret that she and Billy shared. Kimberly is afraid to tell Tommy this secret, but Billy says he'd understand because he's Tommy Oliver. Kimberly gives Billy a relieved smile and lays her head on his shoulder. Thanks to the sponsor of this video, Skillshare.
What a relief. Revelio.
What's up? How was it?
It was long.
That was long.
But, I mean, you know, Abby and I went to the store when we got back. And clothes and we went to the store. And of course, I forget fucking paper towels.
That's funny because I was gonna get them earlier. Like I went to attempt to get them, but I ended up not making it to like Walmart. So.
Revelio.
Oh, okay. They did a show?
It wasn't like a show, just like they got up there and I guess like sang, or not sang, but lip sang or whatever a little bit.
Oh yeah, they hold those down the street too.
You said what?
They've been holding those down the street.
Oh, at the little LGBTQ community center thing?
And at Brew Nuts.
Oh.
Yeah, they got do like a stage thing.
I just think it's talented, like, because their makeup looks so good from far away. Like, I guess their makeup has to be that extra for you to see it that far away.
Yeah.
When you get up on them close, you be like, damn, that's a lot of makeup. But it looks so good far away, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can actually see, like, their, you know, it looks like a good face. And then when you get up, you be like, wow, like, it's overdone. But, you know, it's needed so you can see from far away. But, but they do such a good job. And, you know, thank God it wasn't a shooting because I thought about that on the way going there. I'm like, I hope these racist, queer-phobic people in Lake County, no one comes and wants to shoot up the place. You know, just my luck, we had an event.
Yeah, that's something important to think about. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I didn't think about that either until I was driving. I was just like, hope everything goes well. But we did have like the sheriff's office there and stuff, but still, all it takes is them to shoot one person straight blank, you know, point blank on, and then of course law enforcement can respond, but it's already that one person could be dead just by them shooting that one person, you know, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, it was cool. They bring a lot of kids be brought to these things, and I don't really necessarily care. I think it's the parents. Like, the parents are doing this. It's not the teachers, it's not anybody else. Parents are encouraging their kids to be open-minded and to explore all of this. So, you know what I'm saying? Because otherwise, not how would these kids get there? Like, these are little kids. These are like, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10-year-old. You know, these are kids that are not driving. These are kids that are not riding their bike all the way over here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So parents are doing it. I feel like it's just like if it was a rated R movie. Parents bring their kids to a rated R movie. They got the consent. So what is the problem? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
If that's what you choose to have your kids look at about bringing it up in school and stuff like that, where you may not have wanted your kids to learn about it. I just feel like it's a learning tool. Why not have them exposed to know? But when they get home, you tell them what, you know, your thoughts and your wishes are. But having them be exposed to know at least what's going on, like, they're not stupid. They're going to find out some other way. So you explain to them, yes, this is what goes on. But this is what I, you know, hope for you. But if you choose to be this way, you know, I still love you. But honestly, you know, society and the world is made up of men and women are supposed to be together. But, you know, I don't know how to keep rephrasing it, but I just know that teach your kids, and it's better for them to hear it from you than hear it from someone else, or for you to be judgmental and shut them out. You know what I'm saying? Like, just explain to them, talk to them. Kids aren't fucking stupid. And I feel like this whole war is like, because parents don't want to be parents and teach their kids.
Yeah. I said, yeah.
Oh. white noise in the background. I'm not listening to your conversation. No, not that. So it's just like, unless you clearly like make sure I'm trying to, nine times out of 10, I didn't read the 9 So I got up, I'm okay, and I'm wondering how I'm about it.
I mean, it's moisture in here. Hold on back.
They can stop you. It doesn't matter. You gotta be careful. No, you sure enough didn't tell me that shit. You know you would have got a lecture about it, so obviously you know you didn't tell me nothing about that. You wait until after the fact. I see what you do. I see Keith after. Oh yeah, I did this. It was so fun. What? Oh yeah, it was nothing. It was just a game. I mean, you don't see the point. Random fucking crazy people. But do you ask, hey Keish, would you like to go? Oh hell no. No. You don't know what I do?
I know you don't ride. But most simply said road trip ride.
You don't even know. You don't know. That would Abby. Abby, you want to go on roller coaster ride? Still, I don't care. don't fucking swim in the water. I remember I was trying to take her out just so she could dog paddle and she scratched my damn leg trying to get back. I'm like, oh, this is my dog. She's like, trying to like land her paws on me to stand up. Like, yeah, this mother, she'll walk out there just like me. Walk out there all fancy, fancy. Get a little bit higher to the chest where she can touch the paw, pull that to cool down, come right back on out. She'll do no swimming, not jumping in the water. Other dogs be doing backflips, catching frisbees and shit. Abby will look at them like, y'all stupid. Go out and tap out there. Hey, I was over there. It's called Abby. Do you know how to swim? Maybe you don't know how to swim. You should be just tossing there. Your natural instinct is, but it's 18. You could not.
Even if you could pull that off, that's what she was involved in. Pharmacy has to go to job is on the floor of the door.
Now see, it's really easy to just change the number to his cell phone. And when he sees like a bug sensor, it says the company's going to see
I can't believe it's even possible. It's possible. How can you check? It wasn't his life. I thought it was his life. They don't care.
prescription and stuff else computer. No idea what this is.
And Debbie, stick with me because I want to talk really specifically about 2024 and for that race next. Trump's indictment, overclassified dogs could be mitigated up a very long summer. We're going to take a look from the other legal cases facing the former president. Plus, the Biden administration staying silent in reaction to Trump's indictment, how that could change the election kicks into high gear. Majority of my patients with sensitivity, I severe tape toxic camel. Sensitive sensitivity dominant animal. Relief sensitivity helps restore gut health and regardless of that, I'm a big advocate of recommending things that I know work.
My most important YouTube tool, my wearable. So I choose the people source. Unlike smokers, Primo Plus is multi-cancers, 16 millimeters, Primo tell you the show. Primo, baby better. We stretch all over the stuff.
Everyday products, designed smart. Like a smart coffee grinder. The core experience for you. I need to bring to your car.
With 2.5% cash back on purchases of $5,000.
Plus unlimited 2% cash back on all other purchases.
And keep your spending potential. Save 50
I probably should have left it in there longer, but.
Business Premier Drive to change your business. Choose.
Actually, I was like,
We're getting amazing work with Fiverr. All you need is your team. And it's out for free next year. We'll let them end the seamlessly join your team. Just about. And your expand your team with Fiverr Friends.
Still struggling with your bra? It's time for you to try Mix. Makers of the world's comfiest wireless bras. Revolutionary support without rubber wires and sizes up to an H&M. Find your new favorite bra today at Mix.com.
She's on the rise. She has the black, but she gets exactly what she wants and only pays for what she needs. Takes all the fruit she wants and saves on everyone. All with the incredible new iPhone. Act now and get iPhone 14 Pro on it's still on the rise. Try Mix. Numbers. 3 times more hits on your average cigarettes. Leads increased cravings. Tracking limitless cravings. Correct reduces cravings, so they're gone for good.
Donald Trump is due in Miami federal court on Tuesday, facing a 37-count indictment over his handling of government documents. Trump's legal troubles do not end there. While on the documents case was just one branch of the special counsel investigation. Trump's role in the January 6th attack on the Capitol. This week, Stephen Adams comes before the House and court with subpoenas may not bring to his code. Like their Trump's other indictment over the hush money allegedly paid to the Guilty star Stormy Daniels during the 2016 presidential campaign. That trial is scheduled for March of next year. And in Georgia, where Trump appeared on stage today, a grand jury could unseal an indictment at some point this summer. Fulton County DA Connie Willis is investigating interference in the 2020 election, and President Trump called Georgia's Secretary of State asking him to quote, find the votes.
So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes on the floor that we have. You going to get one to say?
I'm on fire. It's horrible. It's hot. Look how hot it is.
it don't feel hot at all. It's very
I like it.
comfortable. It's only 75 degrees.
Yeah, I want to
Right out here. It feels a little, it smells a little stuffy, but it feels okay in there too. Sweet. Well, obviously you must be hot. I mean, I guess you can turn it down, but I feel good. I'll end up just going to my room. I mean, you don't have much on either. But I'll end up going to my room. Oh, I was getting on the blanket and shit.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Yeah, you're
shortly be facing a federal indictment for his mishandling of classified documents. Republicans from standing by their man, including Trump's 2024 presidential office. Former Vice President Mike Pence lashing out against the Justice Department earlier today.
The former President of the United States, facing an unprecedented indictment by a Justice Department run by the current President of the United States. I hope the Department of Justice will see its way clear to resolve the issues involving former President without an indictment, and I'm deeply troubled to see this indictment move forward.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis tweeted, quote, "Weaponization of federal law enforcement represents a real threat to open society." Atlantic writer Tom Nichols points out, quote, "The fact that DeSantis and others feel the need to placate such paranoia is indicative of how unhinged GOP has become." Former members of Congress David Jolly and Debbie Garcelle-Powell, they are back with us. David, does this change the contours of 2024?
No, I don't think so. Remarkably, I mean, we know the impact of an indictment on Donald Trump actually allows him to strengthen his hold. But if you look candidate by candidate, has it changed their strategy? No. Nobody has been willing to come out and say Donald Trump should drop out of the race, but for Asa Hutchinson. Nobody is defending Donald Trump either. They're just letting him kind of deal with those issues himself. What they are doing, as you played, is attacking Joe Biden and in some cases saying, we'll settle scores that they get the White House. That was essentially a statement by Ron DeSantis. But each one of them remain today with the strategies they did last week. That utterly state delegate swamp, particularly Ron DeSantis trying to get into every Iowa county, meet as many people, surprise people in Iowa. Like that's something to do the same with the evangelicals. The intriguing thing here, Alicia, is we have no idea what a trial schedule will look like. But it is very likely that a trial, if there is one to occur, would occur after the primary early states are decided. Florida's in March. The other early states are in February. You could have Donald Trump actually have the delegates secured for the nomination ahead of a trial but before a general election. Who knows where we are as a nation could have something.
Well, this is particularly relevant to being able to have political reporting and Donald Trump saying that he will run even if he's convicted.
Oh, yes, and he's been saying that from the very beginning. The fact that he actually filed to run for president and that immediately he started obtaining all the endorsements of congressional Republicans in Washington, D.C. should really send a message to the nation that this is no longer a conservative Republican Party. This is not a party that's pushing an extreme agenda of radicalism and populism that really is paving the way for a very, very radical Republican. And that's why this is so dangerous. Now, one of the things that I think is very interesting is that Ron DeSantis is trying to really balance himself and not upsetting Trump over ratings, which he's going to need if anything happens with Donald Trump in his indictments. And at the same time, really using this information to provide our nation's stomach for anyone in the general election. Now, just to respond to that tweet that you showed, Alicia, the only real threat that we have in this nation is any MAGA Republican nominee that gets a nomination to run in 2024. That is the mortal threat to our free society. And Ron DeSantis has been a mortal threat to our freedoms here in the state of Florida. So I'm extremely worried about what is about to happen next week with calls to violence by some sitting members of Congress. They're supporting Donald Trump. So we need to unite and support this information that I continue to bring up because the only way to do that is to continue to provide truth to the American public. And that is really encouraging everyone to take the time to read that indictment, which is very clear. And Donald Trump admits to make that is illegal. You know, villainous of the law, not even a former president.
David, I have less than 30 seconds left.
No, David just talked over the top.
So it came on itself?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like,
Oh,
where I'm from?
What's the name of lady from?
I don't know. This is a series on Prime. Looks kind of good.
Oh yeah, that show's amazing, but it's not on. They took it off Prime, so you can only watch the first season. The second season is on some weird network that they try to charge you. I'm on the second season, so we had to get the rest of them. Looking forward to wait till next year, and then we'll get it on Prime. Yeah, it's a really good show.
Really?
Really, really good show. Yeah.
I just accidentally hit the Prime button, and I was like, well, I haven't checked that one on Prime, but let me see. He's a really good actor. Like, I don't know his name either, but he played Claude, and he played as a person who was autistic. He did a really good fucking job. Like, it was so believable. And to see him like normal like this, back normal, kind of weird. You know what I'm saying? He did such a good job. I think his name is Harold. Is that his name? Harold or Boyd? I don't remember how they list the names on Prime. If it's the one above it or the one below.
It should show the picture and everything.
It does, but I don't know which name is the name in the character. Like I don't know what is his name or what his character's name is. Do you know?
Boy.
That's the character name or his name?
The character, I believe.
Oh, well, then his name is Harold. I have to get him to go and say his name.
just schedule a free-up call. That's all. We'll start saying your prayers. Yeah. God damn it. Do you promise? I promise. I will never break the promise. Megan, what are you doing? You don't know that. She's not your grandma. Oh, no. Baby, please just say that.
His name is Harold.
Okay.
You're gonna be okay. The secret fairies are on their way back from the Lake of Tears. They're gonna fix you. No. Monsters claws like Tell my